pledge. Pledge allegiance. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the special town board meeting. It is November 20th, 2023. Time is 7 p.m. As you know, this is a continuing hearing regarding to New York State election law, section 17-206. Purpose of this meeting is to listen to what the public has to say, not what the town board thinks or our opinions. Because this could be potential litigation, the town board cannot make comments because it could be used against us. Everyone, like the last time, will have 5 minutes to speak, and like last week, we will do this for 1 hour. Again, anything that you'd like to offer us as far as an email or a letter, you're welcome to do that. We received a number of emails. Emily has recorded everything that has come in. And we've had a number of communications, phone communications, and emails. There will be no back and forth between people in the seats. Anybody that wishes to speak comes up here and speaks to the mic. Everybody in Mount Pleasant wants to hear what you have to say. And let's get started. First person that'd like to speak, please raise your hand.
If you're going to speak, please sign in before you come up.
You on, Lenny?
Do you want to speak? You could come up.
I'll start you off.
Did you sign in?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Fran Berger. I'm from Valhalla. I'm a very concerned citizen of the town of Mount Pleasant. I appreciate you guys and all your efforts and work that you do for our town. You are a well-run machine. With that being said, I ask you as a supervisor and the town board to proceed with caution and do not move forward with any resolution. I request that you hire special counsel. I request you get further analysis. We have only these 2 reports, and I request experts to review these reports. Where is the discrimination? Where is the evidence of discrimination? What facts have been presented? Please do not move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you sign in?
Hello, everyone. First, I'd like to congratulate all of you. I'm very happy to see that all of you were elected fairly, and I voted for you guys. I am Hispanic. My name is Jonathan. I moved to Valhalla in 2016. If it's all right, I'd like to ask for a show of hands, and I'll say it in Spanish if they don't understand English, because I speak Spanish. ¿Quién es Latino aquí? Who's Spanish? Okay, 1, 2, not many, right? For everyone here. So let me present as evidence. Perfecto. I'm Jonathan. I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up in a proud Puerto Rican Hispanic household. We had a lot of pride. We are people with pride, right? And I will say, call a spade spade, I learned many great qualities from my grandparents and my mother. However, I'm going to be completely honest. One thing that they did not teach us was about politics, okay? They were very distinct in saying Democrats are for the poor, Republicans are for the rich, and they would not go out to vote. It wasn't because they did not feel represented, because they felt that Democrats represented them. They just would not go out and vote, okay? When I became older, I educated myself, and I found that my views align more with Republican. I feel that this hearing isn't actually a quality type of hearing to have, because I'm Hispanic, and because I voted for you guys, I have a voice. My vote does count as well. And I feel that Hispanics, right, should be embarrassed. I was here on Monday. I was embarrassed to see that people that are not Hispanic trying to speak for Hispanics. We are grown adults, all right? I served in the military 20 years and I'm still serving. I served 2 tours overseas, all right? Thank you. But I'm appalled, and any Hispanic that's sitting here today should be offended. We are grown adults that we're talking about here. The polls open at 6 a.m. and they close at 9 p.m. I got up today to work at 3 a.m. and I am here. I have 2 kids at home. But you know what? I felt that this was important. And as Hispanics and Latinos, if you feel that your voice is not being heard, let's find a candidate then that'll run. It's not their fault that no one came up and ran. Okay? So let's all be adults from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Furthermore, I was here last week. The HispanicFederation.org appointed New York City. This is not Mount Pleasant, this is all over. New York City has over 8 million residents. Okay? For the mayoral election, 1.1 million people voted. Do you feel that it's Hispanics not feeling represented? No. The HispanicFederation.org stated that there's 2.4 million Hispanics. If they're not going out to vote, you know what? Let's treat them like adults. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic. Be an adult, be mature, get up and go vote. If it means that much to you. Because it means that much to me, and it means that much to my kids' future. Okay? Francesca Hagedis was a representative on this council. She's a Democrat. Was elected in 2018. She's here tonight. I read numerous articles about her. I didn't read not one article with her speaking about Hispanics not feeling like they're represented. Why is this happening now? Is it because of a seat full of Republicans? Is that the reason why? I saw her talking about leaf blowers and stuff like that. Let's hold our representatives accountable. If I feel that they're not doing a good job, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to vote them out. I'm going to go and I'm going to vote. And if I feel that I need to, when I retire from my career in 4 years, then I'm going to run for a seat. But that's how we do things here in America, okay? I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker? Sure you can.
There's another gentleman.
Right there.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you that may not know me, my name is Patrick Rosa Lilly. I'm a graduate of Westlake High School. I graduated in 2021, and I have lived my entire life in this community. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that this is a place of tremendous acceptance, of tremendous community, where people come together and help one another. I was rather shocked and appalled to find out such a resolution was even being thrown in the air when I just got home from school today. I'm coming to you tonight to ask our town members who I have volunteered for, and I have the personal, who I know on both a personal and professional level, a team of outstanding effort that have made transformative accomplishments for this town. I would like to come out here and say to you that the achievements made by this town board go and help each and every single individual in this town. I don't know if many of you have driven on Commerce recently and seen the amazing job for which it's done. Behind True Value, Burger Hardware, I believe it is, there's a new mechanic shop. It's called H&J Automotive. It's owned by a group of Ecuadorian brothers. They have more flow for customers now because they have ample parking spots. Just one of those things is something that has helped this town. It helps for business, it helps with travel, it helps with safety. Why are we pretending like these achievements do not affect our Latino constituents in this town? I think that it is disgusting to say that a group of people are not affected by the changes that these people work so hard to bring about to this community. I have 2 friends that are Peruvian, and both of them were rather surprised to hear that such a motion was even brought forth. As I had mentioned to you, I've lived in this town my whole life. I've known these people since kindergarten. I think that it is incredibly important that we look to the achievements of this board and what they have done. We should look beyond anybody's race, and to say that their race somehow makes them immune of all the achievements is wrong. And on one final note, I would like to raise a matter of concern tonight. Why is it that people on the Democratic side in this town, many of them are white, many of them are upper middle class, why are you coming to our town and criticizing this town board who have done so many incredible things on a group of people that you might not have even spoken to? As this gentleman had just mentioned, he's Latino himself, and he heard one of the prominent candidates and the loudest voices in the town talking about leaf blowers. If you're really that concerned about the Latino constituency, why haven't you talked about it before, number one? And number two, in 2021, when several of their seats were up and you were running, personally, Francesca Hagedis was running, why weren't those issues raised then? So to me, it seems like, thank you. One final note, to me, in all honesty, I think that this is purely a political move, and I think it's wrong. Why have you come up just after the election when so many of these people have won by over 1,000 votes? I think Carl, for example, won by maybe 1,100 votes. To me, it seems like a political move, and that's not what Mount Pleasant is. Yeah, you might be able to argue whatever, you don't feel supported if you're on that Democratic side, but this town has made some incredible accomplishments, and we've been keeping things going for our citizens, and I certainly don't want to see that change just because upper middle class white people who lean left in this town have to feel like they have to speak for a group of people who I know personally in this town, who I have friends with that are Latino, because I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that they are no different than you and I, and they benefit from what these people have done. Thank you.
Ken, did you want to come up?
Good evening, members of the board, and good evening to all of you. My name is Ken Ray. I'm the former mayor of Sleepy Hollow. I was the mayor for 14 years, and my term just ended this last March against my wishes, but it ended. I just want to start by saying Sleepy Hollow is a proud immigrant town. We've been an immigrant town for well over 100 years. We were Sicilians, Italians, I know there's a difference, Portuguese, and on. We were at our Christmas dinner with our seniors, and I was sitting at a table with 10 people. There were 7 other languages spoken there in addition to English. So that's who we are, and that's who we've been for a long time. I'm here to say I support this move to redistrict or somehow create wards or something here in the town of Mount Pleasant. And for a very strong and very practical reason. We have no representation on this board. There's nobody from Sleepy Hollow on it. I'm not so much concerned about what the town can do for Sleepy Hollow, but what the town can do to Sleepy Hollow. And let me give you an example of that. You'll remember this, Carl.
Sure.
We had the General Motors plant in Sleepy Hollow for decades, and it finally closed. After being off the tax rolls for 30 years, it finally went back on the tax rolls. The new developer came to the town of Mount Pleasant and said, we want to do a deal where we'll take the property back off of the tax rolls, after we waited 30 years to get it back on again. So you can imagine what that would mean to us and to our school district. It was a huge, huge hit if that had happened. We found out, essentially by accident, when our town council at the time noticed a public hearing notice that said there was going to be a hearing in this room. We weren't notified by the town, we weren't told about any of this action, and it would have taken the property right back off the tax rolls. We're looking at right now, when this thing is completely redeveloped, somewhere between $7 and $10 million a year in new property taxes. More than that to the school district. So you can imagine what that means. That's a huge hit for our town. If someone from Sleepy Hollow had been on this board, that action never would have happened. Something else would have been worked out. Because that Sleepy Hollow person, Republican or Democrat, whoever it was, would have said, whoa, 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 stop, hold it. That's not good for my village. So that's why I support this. We need to have that representation on this board, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you work out along those lines. Thank you.
Just to clarify, Ken, because this has nothing to do with this particular case, you were dealing, that was the IDA was handling that, not the town board. Town board had nothing to do with that process. Secondly, we never were taking any tax dollars away from Sleepy Hollow. We,
Quiet.
Excuse me.
you'll have your turn,
He's the supervisor.
Quiet.
He's the town supervisor.
He's
I
the
could-
supervisor.
all right? He misspoke. I'm correcting him. And he knows very well how that process went. We would never do anything, the IDA, to hurt the village of Sleepy Hollow.
Carl, do I get to respond to that?
Did you sign in?
Sure you can.
Should I just do it from here?
Sure.
Come on.
First of all, everyone should know that the IDA is appointed, the members of the IDA are appointed by this board, appointed by the supervisor, and approved by this board. So it's completely controlled by the town of Mount Pleasant.
Yeah, there was a member of the IDA from Sleepy Hollow. No, was back then also.
Then,
Then.
There always has been.
Okay, thank you.
there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Go ahead.
My name is Mark Saracino. I live in Valhalla. I might take a little bit longer than 5 minutes. Is there anybody here that would like to raise their hand and offer me their time slot if they don't plan on speaking? Thank you. So if they can yield their time to me, in case I go over, I'll try not to, but just in case. Thank you. So anyway, I was here Monday, and I listened to a number of speakers. I listened to a few tonight as well. And I've familiarized myself with the basis of your complaint about voter dilution and why it's important for us to understand. The issue you've brought up is the first case in New York State. So when we look at Governor Hochul bringing about the Voting Rights Act, signing it into legislation last year, this will be the first time. So we're looking to set a state precedent with this complaint case. Now, last week I heard a gentleman, he was an attorney from Chappaqua. I don't remember your name, I'm sorry. But you had mentioned that we don't have to worry about it being the first because there's federal precedent. That cases like this have been brought up across the country in federal Supreme Court a number of times, dozens of cases. With that, I did some research and I was reading about each of those instances. And I didn't read about all of them, but I got to about 5 or 6, and I was noticing a trend as I'm reading them that the folks making the complaint were all based on a geographical area, a geographical pocket, similar to Sleepy Hollow. And they felt they were not being represented and they were being disenfranchised because they had no voice. In each of those cases, that geographic pocket had no other representation for them. Whether they were seeking to change laws for Senate districts, whether it was a village, there was a village on Long Island, Brentwood, a hamlet of Brentwood that wrapped up to the town of Islip. They were a hamlet. They didn't have any representation except for the town that they were complaining about. Now, I bring that up because it's a very important distinction to make, and it's a big deal, I think, is that Sleepy Hollow, in and of itself, is a village and has its own village board in addition to the town of Mount Pleasant. That's a big deal. I don't know how a judge would see this, and I hope this doesn't get to a judge. I hope it doesn't go to a lawsuit, but I'd be very curious to see how that a judge kind of considers that to be an issue, in this case, different from others. You're saying, and I brought a board, so give me a moment. I'm going to do a very crude map of the town of Mount Pleasant, which almost kind of looks like a dragon looking down like an arrow. So don't mind the work. But here's your town of Mount Pleasant. This is the whole greater town. Sleepy Hollow Village is somewhere over here. This whole other area are the unincorporated parts of the town of Mount Pleasant, including the village of Pleasantville, and all the hamlets that you're saying dilute your vote. So I see it geographically. Here's Sleepy Hollow. Here's all the areas that are diluting your vote. Now, I live in this area. I live in Valhalla in a hamlet. I can vote for this town board, and they control a lot of my everyday life. They control my garbage pickups, my police department, my highway department. So much of my life they control. I can only vote for this town. Folks in Sleepy Hollow here, guess what? They could vote for this town, but this town does not offer them any daily services in their day-to-day life. You know why? Because they have their own village board that does that. And I'm going to explain even further. I live in Valhalla. I can't vote for that village board. That's in my town. Sleepy Hollow is in my town. I can't vote for the village board in Sleepy Hollow. I go to Sleepy Hollow with my family. We enjoy the parks. We go to dinner. I do business in Sleepy Hollow, but I have zero input. So I have no vote there. These folks are fortunate enough to have the luxury of having a vote in Sleepy Hollow and having a voice in Mount Pleasant, where that's all we have. Thank you, but I'm not done yet. Your lawyer has been quoted time and time again saying that the folks in Sleepy Hollow deserve a seat at this table, over and over again. So I'm wondering, with that complaint, why do you want a seat at the table that's not performing any services for you? What will that change and what will that prove? Maybe what the lawyers are failing to tell you is that you have your board of trustees, the ones that legislate for you. They write your laws in Sleepy Hollow, right? They write the laws here. They don't write the laws here, and this group here doesn't write the laws here. I know it's confusing, but I'm trying to make it as clear as I can. I apologize again for being confusing. But anyway, this table that you want to see at, they handle all of my day-to-day services, and they keep my tax dollars. So when I pay property tax, this board and this table keeps my tax dollars. Sleepy Hollow residents, when you pay your tax dollars, this board doesn't keep them. If you have a tax bill, and let's just say school and county taxes aside, just your local municipal portion of your tax. Let's say, for example, that's $5,000, your local portion of your tax. I'm going to keep going. This board keeps only $70 out of that $5,000 that gets redistributed right back to your village. $70 a year. That's not even enough for a half of a tank of fuel for a plow truck to plow the roads, which, mind you, are plowing the roads in the hamlets and all the unincorporated areas, but they're not plowing your roads because you have your own plow trucks that you pay for. So you want a seat at a table that you're not contributing to, that's not affecting your laws, they're not writing your ordinances. If you want to take out a building permit in the village of Sleepy Hollow and improve your home or improve your business, they don't even know about it. It doesn't go to this table, it goes to the village board table and the building department that they've appointed. All of the buildings that the former mayor just mentioned in Sleepy Hollow, this town's appointed planning board has nothing to do with it. They have zero oversight. There's a planning and zoning board in Sleepy Hollow that you have on your own. I can go on and on. Police, do you have an issue with your police department? Do you want to complain about your police department? Don't come to Chief Oliva in Mount Pleasant because he has nothing to do with it. You go to the village of Sleepy Hollow. They have their own police department that's appointed by their mayor. And better yet, you have 6 trustees on your village board, 6 that run 2-year terms. I don't have that. I only have 4 that run 4-year terms. So if you voted for me, you're stuck with me for 4 years. If you live in Sleepy Hollow, every year you have 3 trustees up for re-election, and you have 0 dilution in that government that I can't vote for in my own town, but you can. And they do everything for you. You have infrastructure projects coming up. You have drinking water projects coming up in Sleepy Hollow for the water that you drink, not the water that I drink. They have nothing to do with it. I mean, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but I can go on and on and on. For you to sue this town and to threaten litigation against this town and ask for a seat at a table, it just seems so far out of left field that I'm having trouble understanding why. Why is this being done? I don't like the ward idea. I know it's been thrown out there. The ward idea to me is the lawyers telling you that, you know what, we want to put you in a pocket. We want to keep you here. We want to keep you here forever. We want to own you. We're going to give you your ward. We're going to engineer the voting system so that you have your ward. Because they don't think that you're smart enough or ambitious enough to get out of that ward and do it for yourself. They don't think that. So they'll own you, and when they own you, they're going to own you forever. I promise you that. I believe in freedom. That's what I believe in. This isn't freedom. You want to make a difference. Thank you, but I don't want the applause. I'm just trying to make a point because I'm very passionate about this town. I, too, I'm born and raised here. And to see this sort of issue being brought up, again, it's just so all of a sudden out of left field. I don't like it. I think that there are real issues in the world for minority folks. I think there are real communities that might have issues. This is not one of them. Don't bring the attention here and dilute a real possible issue for someone who really has the issue and doesn't have the luxury that you have of having your own village board that does everything for you. One more thing. Why haven't your attorneys brought up any alternate plans aside from bringing a lawsuit? the mayor was just speaking and saying how he referred to Sleepy Hollow as a town a number of times. It's not a town, it's a village. It's a village. It's not a town. This is the town. Now, if you want to be a pioneer and you want to make a big difference, why have you not even considered the fact that maybe Sleepy Hollow can become the town of Sleepy Hollow? It's possible. There are 5 coterminous towns in New York State. There's 933 towns, 533 villages. Only 5 are a town village. There's Scarsdale, Harrison, Mount Kisco, and one upstate and one in western New York. Mount Kisco did this 45 years ago. They were the last one. And you know what? They've never looked back. They have a robust downtown. They have a bustling economy. They have great people, great buildings. We all go to Mount Kisco. I'm there about 5 times a week to do shopping. They have a wonderful economy, and they broke off from the town of Bedford and the town of Newcastle in 1978. Not one village has done it since then. So why not look at that and say, you know what? I'm going to make real change, legacy change. I'm going to have my name on a plaque as the founding mother and the founding father of the town of Sleepy Hollow. Maybe that's, look, they might crucify me for saying that. I don't know, all right? I don't know how that plays out. But that's a thought to think, to say maybe we don't have to sue. We don't have to have a judge tell us where we should be and how we can vote. We don't need our lawyers to do it for us. We're going to do it for ourselves. And the benefits, you'll have financial benefits. You'll have increased state aid because state aid is based on a population of your town. And now you're a town and village and your people get counted twice. You'll get increased benefits, less bureaucracy, less red tape, less government, less layers, this convoluted. Look, before this, I barely knew this much about how Sleepy Hollow and Mount Pleasant interact with each other. Now I know a lot. And it's complicated. I don't fully understand it. Maybe I don't have to understand it yet. In a few weeks I might have to. But I think that you should look into the alternatives because litigation is not always the issue. Suing is not always the answer. Don't dilute a real issue that's out there for real people when you have the luxury of having your own village services that not many other people have. I think that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you. And thank you. And before you go any further, when you leave here tonight and go tomorrow, walk Beekman Avenue and talk to the residents, talk to the business owners, talk to the people out there, see what they think. Reach out to the mayor, reach out to the village board. Did you know the village board of trustees in Sleepy Hollow has 2 Latino members on it of Latino descent? So go talk to Mr. Leon, go talk to Mr. Rodriguez. They represent you. See what they say instead of just coming out with this, not even talking to them, not even walking your neighborhood. It blows my mind. But good luck. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Did you sign in? I did. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the town board. Thank you for holding this hearing. My name is Michael Pernick. I'm a redistricting counsel with the Legal Defense Fund, and I'm here. I'm sorry?
Where do you live? You live in the town?
I'm here on behalf of my organization, the Legal Defense Fund, the leading national organization. I'm based in New York City. The leading national organization that advocates for black voters across the country, litigates on behalf of black voters across the country. We were involved in advocating for the New York Voting Rights Act, and I'm not here to take a position or advise you on any particular remedy, but really just to provide some background on the law, and to the extent you have questions, make myself available to answer any questions that you might have. I sent a letter earlier today, and I have some extra copies. Would it be helpful for me to give you copies of the letter?
No, we'll wait until the supervisor gives them to us. Thank you.
Okay.
I have them.
Oh, you received a letter? Excellent. Thank you, Supervisor. So in short, the New York Voting Rights Act is very clear. It provides that at-large voting is unlawful in the presence of racially polarized voting where there's a minority community that's unable to elect candidates of their choice. It's a very simple standard that's based on the Federal Voting Rights Act, based on state vires in other states, but simplified, made so it's easier for experts to predict the outcome of litigation and to help jurisdictions like Mount Pleasant avoid unnecessary litigation by predicting how that litigation would likely go. It was good to see that you retained Lisa Hanley. She is a well-respected, on both sides of the aisle, well-respected national expert in evaluating the presence of racially polarized voting. it's not a very complicated analysis. It's basically math, numbers, and if an expert concludes that there's clear racially polarized voting, that's a pretty straightforward analysis. Jeff Weiss, the other expert you retained, is a nationally regarded expert on redistricting law. So we were pleased to see that you retained good people to advise you in this process. And the conclusion of their analysis was clear. There is racially polarized voting in Mount Pleasant elections across multiple different contests that they've analyzed. It's a pretty clear-cut conclusion, and that conclusion leads to the answer that the New York Voting Rights Act would prohibit this at-large structure. So that leads to the next question: what would a remedy look like to a violation like that? What are the options that are available to you? And I'll speak briefly about what some of those options under the law look like, but first, two quick points. First, you have an opportunity right now for you all to decide what that remedy looks like. If there's litigation, a court would decide what that remedy looks like. In fact, the New York Voting Rights Act provides that courts will not defer to the preferences of the jurisdiction when something is litigated. So this is the one window for you all to decide what path forward makes the most sense for the town. Second, you have an opportunity to avoid the expense of litigation. I litigated, somebody referenced the iSlip case on Long Island. I litigated that case under the Federal Voting Rights Act. That case cost the town of Islip millions of dollars. When we won, we moved for our fees and they paid plaintiff's counsel millions of dollars, or I think it was about $1 million they paid plaintiff's counsel. Very expensive cases to litigate, but you have an opportunity to avoid that expense, not only for your own specialized counsel, but plaintiff's counsel if plaintiffs prevail. So the law gives you a few different options for moving forward. One option is, as folks have mentioned, a ward-based system, district-based elections that would give Hispanic voters an opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. The law also provides you with alternate remedies that are available, things like ranked choice voting, which is used, a form of which is used in New York City, cumulative voting, which is used right now in Port Chester as a remedy for Section 2 violations that were litigated several years ago. Limited voting is another approach. And I walk through in the letter that we submitted what these mean, how they work, how they would function. So there is some background that we've provided on those alternate remedies. But in short, they would not require you to draw wards or draw districts. They would allow you to continue to have a structure where every voter in the town gets to vote for each candidate. There are just different rules and methods of counting that are prescribed in the law that ensure that minority voters have that equal opportunity to participate and elect candidates of choice. The law also allows you to reasonably increase the size of the town board. So many towns across the state have 6 members. That's something that could be a part of a remedy with one of these other approaches that you all could consider. And this is your opportunity to consider some of those alternatives and consider if any of those might work better for the town, might work better for the voters in the town. And this is your chance to adopt one of those before litigation takes it out of your hands. The last thing I'll say, you have excellent people advising you. As folks have mentioned, this is the case of first impression in New York, but this statute is based on similar statutes in other states. In California, after the California Voting Rights Act was passed, hundreds of jurisdictions changed from at-large to district-based elections. So folks are watching, folks are here to support you, folks are here to advise you. You have great people advising you, and I'm available to answer any questions that you all might have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Ann Rita Paulus, and I actually do live in the town of Mount Pleasant, unlike the other gentleman. A couple of things. I did go through the 2 documents very carefully. I'm concerned with how those statistics were obtained. Dr. Hanley manually entered this data into an Excel spreadsheet. The data is taken from Latour. It's over 3 years old. Mount Pleasant has become actually more diverse in the last few years. My next door neighbor is diverse. Oh, sorry, diverse. The other concern is if we don't like an outcome of an election, we're here talking about changing the results. I thought we were against election interference. To the other gentlemen, we all have the opportunity to vote. And the other concern I have is, are we preventing minority candidates from coming forward? We had Democrat candidates, and I saw a lot of Republicans ringing bells and doors. I didn't see the Democrats. No one came to my door to campaign. I would have listened to them if they did. The other thing is, we are here as town, we're allowed to fight this or contest it, but in the document, it says that it's going to be challenging and costly. It sounds like blackmail and extortion. Like, do as I say, or we're coming after you. And I thought, we were against that. We're actually criminal charges against candidates that are interfering with elections. And I'm sorry, it sounds like it, and it's very concerning. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Carlo Valente. I live in Hawthorne. Thank you for your service. 20 years. God bless you. Like a lot of other residents in town, I didn't grow up here. I was born in the Bronx. Parents moved to Yonkers. And then eventually I left and I came up here, looking for a better opportunity, better place. My parents are immigrants. They left the land that they didn't speak the language. They came here, they worked hard, they achieved. It's the American dream. Cannot be written any other way. So when you hear about somebody crying, woe is me, it gets a little tiring. There are so many opportunities now that my parents didn't have. They never cried. You know, they told us, when you leave the house, speak English, assimilate. That's the only way you're going to advance. I speak 2 languages. You know, I wish I spoke 3. So when someone says that because you look different, you sound different, you speak different, you're treated different, I call BS on that. A couple of things I want to say. The law that New York passed hasn't been challenged. Just because it's a law doesn't mean it's lawful. It's unconstitutional. There are many laws that we have on the books that need to be challenged. Something that came across my desk today, I'm going to read it. It speaks about Voting Rights Act. And it says the following. The ruling came from the 8th Circuit Court. The court ruled that only the federal government and not individuals or activist groups can sue under the Voting Rights Act. The ruling originated from a legal dispute from Arkansas NAACP brought against the state's Board of Apportionment, claiming that the new redistricting plan would dilute, heard of that word before, dilute voting, a violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. In 2022, a district judge ruled that such a claim could only be brought forward by the Attorney General of the United States, and on Monday, the ruling was upheld 2-1. Now, I know this is not New York, but it's a parallel law. It sets precedent. So when we have people threatening us, saying that it's a law, you guys got to bend the knee, you guys got to capitulate, challenge it. It's a threat. Like the previous speaker said, it's a threat. So, besides that attorney, for the IDF fund, to quote Vincent LaGuardia Gambini, everything that guy said is bullshit.
Who's next? Yeah.
All gentlemen.
Did you sign in? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk today.
Hi, everyone. Hi, members of the board. I live in Valhalla. But I just... Sorry?
Your name?
Oh, my name is Matt Brown. I just wanted to talk about one of the things that the fella from the city brought up which is ranked choice voting. So we've talked a lot about, we've got an at-large system right now, right, where every candidate kind of runs alone. And so winning the majority in any of those races gets you the election. We've talked about wards, where we kind of break up the town, and then we try to let's be honest, we try to design a ward system so that we get the outcomes we want, right? That's the problem with breaking up with any sort of districting system, is that you get whoever's drawing the districts has a lot of control over the outcome. There's something called ranked choice voting, which is a system where it's really simple for voters. You have a bunch of candidates in front of you, and you just rank them, 1 through 6 or whatever, right? However many candidates. That's the whole thing. And then the way it's counted is a little more complicated, but only the elections people have to deal with that, which is basically, all right, you count up all the first choice votes, and you see who gets the most all the way down to the least, and then you just toss out the person who got the least, right? And whoever voted for that person, their second choice votes then get counted, right? And you go from there. And the outcome is that you get a breakdown of winners. You could do this with more than one seat, right? So you could still do it with at-large. So you get a breakdown of winners that actually looks a lot like the preferences of all of the people voting, right? So we basically have a board composition that pretty closely reflected the sort of ratio of what people in the town actually want. But we do this without saying, okay, you over there in Sleepy Hollow, you're going to get one board member, and then maybe we in Valhalla get one, and then maybe Pleasantville gets one. None of that stuff, right? We're still all voting together. We're getting a more proportional board to what the voters actually want. This is called ranked choice voting. It's one of several options. I didn't even know, I wasn't sure when I showed up it was allowed by the law, but I guess it is. And the nice thing about this, sorry? Maybe, okay, maybe it's the law allows it. The nice thing about this is that there's no, nobody's going to say that you're fiddling with the districts or the wards or whatever, right? There's no further exposure to it being unfair. Ranked choice voting is just a system that produces a certain outcome. So it's a pretty good option. I would encourage the board to consider it. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having the hearing tonight. I have a couple of prepared statements I would like to read.
What's your name?
Your name?
Please?
My name is Ted Bly, and by no means am I an attorney or an elections expert, but
And
I'm
I'm sorry, where are you from?
about to say that. But I'm a lifelong Town of Mount Pleasant resident and currently live in Sleepy Hollow. I have a few points I would like to share with the board for consideration. The first thing, when I first was listening to the hearing last Thursday, many who believe the town is in violation of the New York State Voting Rights Act of 2022 stated that the best course of action would be to settle with the complainants because the alternative would be a costly legal fight for taxpayers. It was also mentioned today by a couple of people. In my opinion, we should only settle if the town is at fault and truly in violation. Town of Mount Pleasant is full of residents who want their town board to stand up when confronted with a serious accusation to make the right decision, not just stand down to save. I had originally a few dollars, but the non-resident attorney said it might be millions. I'm okay with spending a couple $1 million as well. Yep. Further, I want to ask the board, do we really even fully understand the situation yet well enough to make a decision? From what I have reviewed, and I didn't sleep last night, I was up Googling and looking at everything. From what I reviewed, I don't think we do. Looking at all the exhibits A, B, C, D, all posted online for our review, the town needs to hire a special counsel and conduct a more detailed analysis of the data to ask the hard questions to understand the basis of the lawsuit and the statistical data used. I went to high school, maybe 2 minutes up the road here, and I work with kids and I teach them and I do all these fun things academically with them. And I always remember a book that I read in my statistics class. It was titled, and Mr. Havestad, if anybody had him as well, How to Lie with Numbers. I recommend that you look at that book. Okay. Because in my review of the provided links by the complainant and also the quote-unquote town experts that were hired, I looked at the census data available online to anybody, and I suggest you all can do that as well. And this was used by the experts, and for the life of me, I tried on my phone, tried on computer, could not drill down to the demographics in specific voting districts. So how did the experts come up with their findings? The census data also does not take into consideration an individual's citizenship and the right to vote, so that it is factored in. So how is this factored into the expert findings? We don't know. The census data also does not account for the 4,000 projected residents that are expected to live on Edge on Hudson, where I live, in Sleepy Hollow in the near future. So should this be considered by these experts? Are they even aware? I don't think they are. I'm sure that there may be logical answers to these questions, but they have not been asked, nor have they been answered. The residents and the board were merely given a high-level report by supposed experts. Furthermore, and this is also mentioned before by other people, as a resident of Sleepy Hollow, I can tell you with a fact that most Sleepy Hollow residents only know the town of Mount Pleasant as a taxing collecting entity, because the town of Mount Pleasant has no jurisdiction or say into how the village of Sleepy Hollow operates. In my opinion, it's because of this fact that no Sleepy Hollow resident, white, Hispanic, or not Hispanic, has ever attempted to run for the town of Mount Pleasant Town Board. Sleepy Hollow has their own mayor, trustees, and elected officials. The reality is, and it's a tough reality for someone who lives in Mount Pleasant my entire life, if a Sleepy Hollow resident wants to make an impact in Sleepy Hollow, they need to run to be on the village of Sleepy Hollow positions, a trustee, a mayor, etc., not a town of Mount Pleasant official. You have no say in Sleepy Hollow if you're on the town board in Mount Pleasant. That's just a reality. And this is already mentioned again. Perhaps, again, a very difficult conversation. Perhaps what really needs to be considered is, should Sleepy Hollow form its own town and annex from the town of Mount Pleasant? Then maybe that's the better solution, but I don't know. I don't have the answers. And a final thought, because I have lived here my entire life, and I care deeply about Sleepy Hollow, I'm sorry, 2 seconds, and also the town of Mount Pleasant. If the suggested ward system or electoral districts, if you will, the voting districts rather, are actually enacted, I do believe this will lead to tremendous town partisanship, okay? Elected council members would be tied to their specific district. They don't care about District 2 because they only care about District 4 people, etc. You know, they will only focus on their immediate district concerns. Right now, we have 4 board members, and they're accountable to the entire board. If somebody in Valhalla doesn't care about, you know, my father's home in Hawthorne, then I'm not going to vote for them. I mean, that's just the reality, right? Dividing up the town into districts divides the town instead of unifying it. We need to unify the town and not divide it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I move this, or can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Hi, my name is Jennifer. I live on Sleepy Hollow Road. Technically, my address is Briarcliff, but my kids are in the Sleepy Hollow school system. So I identify as a Sleepy Hollow resident. My husband was born and raised in Sleepy Hollow. I moved here 30 years ago when I married him. And our kids are in the Sleepy Hollow school system, and it's been a great experience. We're very active in the community. Our kids play sports. Listen, Sleepy Hollow is a very historic, warm, vibrant community. And I'm very proud that I chose to raise my children here rather than where I came from in New Jersey. I'm going to be completely honest. I was here on Thursday, and it was really difficult to listen to a lot of these people speak about Sleepy Hollow. right? When I'm pretty sure I was one of 2, maybe 3 people in the room from Sleepy Hollow. So I can't help but wonder, how is everyone all of a sudden so concerned about Sleepy Hollow? Listen, we have a free and fair election system here. The board has done an amazing job. They've kept taxes low. The development is in check. Francesca ran a few years ago, and she got a spot. And I'm not sure how they went, and quite honestly, I'm not going to spend my time up here in this forum talking about Francesca. But here's the thing. She's got a lot to say about a lot of things, and I've never heard her speak about the Hispanic community. Okay? So, here we recently had a mayoral election in Sleepy Hollow, okay? And Mayor Ken Ray ran against a new candidate. He's actually a Democrat. And I campaigned for him, okay? Because I vote for policy, not people, and I thought it was time for a change, okay? So in Sleepy Hollow, we have a very progressive board. Everyone is very well represented. Our Board of Education is also very diverse, very progressive, and I think that's amazing. That's the way it's supposed to be. My concern is that some of these people showed up, they surfaced, like, very close to the election, and you know, a lot of people didn't know who they were. One relatively young woman, no kids. When I was her age, I don't think I was thinking about running for school board, especially without any kids. But it didn't take long to figure that out because she's the chief of staff in the state assembly. So, you know, so I guess the point I'm trying to make is Sleepy Hollow is a very progressive community, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm all about diversity, and everyone should have their chance. This is my community. These are my neighbors, my friends. I want them to be represented. But here's the thing. A Hispanic woman recently ran for trustee in Tarrytown. I realize Tarrytown is part of Greenburgh, but Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow are twin villages, and we share a zip code. She got crushed. She got absolutely crushed. And I don't hear anybody screaming about it. Why do you think that is? Because she's conservative, okay? So she didn't win, and she got crushed, and you know, no one seems to have anything to say about it, and I can only assume that's because the board is straight, white, very liberal, so hey, no problem, they got what they wanted, right? Listen, in the previous election where you prevailed, you ran a wonderful campaign, fair, honest, with integrity, I thought. The opposition, what did they run on? Save Pecanigo Lake. That was on all their signs, Save Pecanigo Lake. Listen, I live near Pecanigo Lake. I love it, it's beautiful. But that's the best they could come up with, right? Does anyone know that neighborhood? Because you can't buy a doghouse there for less than $2 million. So how many Hispanics live there? How many? I don't know any. So listen, none of us want Pecanigo Lake developed, but let's be honest. Nobody ever wants development, okay? What we want and what's the law is 2 separate things, okay? So I implore you, okay? We need to think about this carefully. We need to hire unbiased experts and outside counsel to take this seriously. And if the answer is to create wards, you know, I'll support that. But I think we need to do our due diligence, and we need to be smart about it, and everyone in this community and everyone in this room deserves that. They filed this lawsuit, right? And then they say, oh, don't fight it, don't use taxpayer money. That's kind of like lighting a fire and then saying, let's not call the fire department, right? We don't want to bother them, okay? So let's just do the right thing. Thank you.
Did you sign in? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ida Michael. As a resident of Sleepy Hollow and a member of the school board, I am also one of the petitioners in this case. I implore the town board to adhere to the recommendations of the town's experts report and address the town's noncompliance with the New York Voting Rights Act. Our community's diversity underscores the need for inclusive representation, ensuring every voice is heard and considered. The town's report clearly indicates the current barriers to achieving this. Representation is a cornerstone of effective politics. Yet our community has repeatedly faced challenges in gaining meaningful representation within the town government. I strongly advocate for the town board to facilitate this vital change. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening once again, and hello again to my former colleagues. I've been quoted incorrectly quite a bit tonight. First of all, I went to Sleepy Hollow High School. Second of all, I grew up in Mexico City. And third of all, when I was on the board, you can look up in the minutes and we all enjoyed, Sleepy Hollow High School won the Metro Awards that year for Hello Dolly. And I brought the cast of Hello Dolly and their parents to the board meeting to honor them here in Mount Pleasant. And it was quite a fun night to see these young people. There were a couple kids from Briarcliff as well. And the supervisor gave them a very lovely award, or proclamation, we call it, and he had fun reading it to them. And I do care very much about Sleepy Hollow. That is, you can look about it in the minutes, because I am a former horsewoman. Anyway, thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Milagros Lecuona. I live in White Plains. Thank you so much, members of the town board, for allowing us to speak here in this public hearing. 2 decades ago, I collaborated with Marilyn Walters, a Sleepy Hollow resident, a great artist, and a very active member of the Sleepy Hollow Arts Council at the time. 2 decades ago, she knew how important it was to integrate the Hispanic community into the Sleepy Hollow's activities, and that is why she invited me as a cultural advisor, being at the time the president of La Casa de la Cultura in Westchester. By the way, I am here as a member of the Hispanic, board member of the Hispanic Democrats of Westchester. I was then the president of La Casa de la Cultura in Westchester, as I mentioned. The artistic contributions that came from the Hispanic artists were extremely well received, adding a total new dimension, making, among other events, the Sleepy Hollow Outdoor Children's Arts Festival a total success. I always admired the Sleepy Hollow community interest and dedication for the arts. I am seeing now some Mount Pleasant residents not happy with the fact that Hispanics want to be part of the town's political family. Mount Pleasant's position is really surprising to me, because it is going against the present current. Today, Republicans and Democrats in Westchester are reaching out to the Hispanic community in search for candidates they could embrace and endorse. White Plains did it with me, a Democrat, an architect, and urban planner. 16 years ago, I served for 12 years as the city council in White Plains. Before me, a Republican, a lawyer, was on the city council in White Plains. The Republican Party endorsed in White Plains a Hispanic engineer 4 years ago, and a doctor in this past election. Great teachers, business people, firefighters are all contributing to the economy, the resiliency, the reliability, the well-being of our cities at all levels. Why wouldn't you want to have a hardworking, family-oriented Hispanic as your representative? Look at the census. You cannot deny the reality. Look at the school population. Look at the hospitality industry, the entertainment industry, the healthcare industry, construction industry, etc. Hispanic community is the leading community group in all these jobs and more. It is in the best interest to all of you in Mount Pleasant to have the right representation on your town board. 3 decades ago, my daughter Isadora was going through the deportation process. Her crime was that she turned 21. She turned 21 years old, and automatically she was removed from my green card application, leaving her in the limbo status. When I told her about the deportation letter, she cried. She told me, how could do this my country? How could my country do this to me? The country that she embraced and loved. That is how we Hispanic feel, the way that you all feel. This is our country, and we want the best for our country. Some of us has an accent, but that's most likely because we speak more than 2 languages. But we still love our country. And going back to my admiration for the Sleepy Hollow love for the arts, my daughter Isadora today is a well-recognized artist teaching art at one of the best private schools of the country. This is our country, and we want the best for our country. Do the right thing and change the electoral system. Thank you very much.
It's 8 o'clock. I'll take one more. Oh.
It's 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Bill McGuinn, Valhalla. I just have I think you guys are doing a great job. I think it's been very clear. The majority of the speakers here today have told you, and last week, you need to not capitulate. Retain outside counsel, do your homework, and do your best to represent the greater number of voices. I learned a lot about voter dilution, and I'd like to say, I'd like that non-resident attorney, if he would represent me. I'm a Republican in New York. My vote has been a throwaway vote for governor since George Pataki in 30 years ago. And my vote in a presidential election, I vote for the Republican candidate, but the Republican candidate gets all, and I'm guessing at this number, 35 electoral college votes from the state of New York. I'm a victim of voter dilution. I wish that man would take my case, but I have a feeling that we wouldn't be on the same path. But thank you very much.
You signed in? Okay.
Hi, my name is Bill McHale. I'm a resident of Pleasantville. 20 plus years ago, the house next door to me was sold, and they sold it to a group that would have a group home there. And I was concerned about that because the topography of the street was, when I pulled out of my driveway and the house on the other side of the street, on the other side of the house that was sold, pulled out his driveway, we couldn't see each other. There was a hill. We had a town meeting in Pleasantville. John Nona was the mayor, and John Nona listened to everyone, and he said, I heard what you said. It's a valid point, but I'm not going to oppose this group home. The probability of the state winning this, contesting this, we'd be spending money and we're going to lose in the end anyway. I don't know if the town board, with great respect to the board, I don't know if you decide to allocate the funds to contest this, whether you'll lose or not, but it's something to seriously consider. Nobody's threatening anybody here. We're just talking about the financial reality. And there's a finite amount of money in the town, and then we have to start thinking about what will we cut to finance this, the legal people, and if we lose, do we continue on? This John Lewis Voting Rights Act became law as of last year. So there's not a track record of cases, but when you hired your 2 voting experts, I would assume, I don't know this, that you asked, one of the reasons was to give me some insight as to our probability of prevailing if we contest this. Well, from what I gather, the answer was this suit, it was valid. And I simply asked that that be taken into consideration I would hate for the board, the town, to contest this and end up losing in the end anyway, and money that could be provided for services is not available for that. So just that consideration. One of the things, this has become somewhat political, but I asked if you were to consider that this town had been democratic for generations. And there was a community of Cuban community in Sleepy Hollow that was not represented on this board, just to be fair about this. Do you think there would be any hesitation on the part, I've been following politics for decades, does there be any hesitation on the part of the Republicans to gain an advantage here? And that's just, this law hasn't existed up until now. Nobody's saying anybody on the board has done anything wrong. This is now the law of the land, of the state. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed you before. Come on up. Yeah, this is the last speaker. We're over.
Hi, thank you for having us. My name is Rebecca Ford. I live in Sleepy Hollow. I moved here 20 years ago from Mexico. I got married. I've been raising my children in this community. I love my community. I receive all the services from our town, Mount Pleasant. And I am asking you, just as a citizen and as a community member, just to please answer this lawsuit. And I am happy to give my taxes to make sure that this is honest and this is a real issue. As a Latin person, I don't think that I've been misrepresented. When I vote for whomever is aligned to my rights, my values. I don't care where you came from. I just vote for what is important for my family. So, thank you so much. And that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I thank you all for coming again tonight. The hearing is not going to be closed. It's going to be kept open. We're still going to accept any comments you may want to mail in or email. We'll accept those. After the Thanksgiving holiday, we may think about what is our next step. But tomorrow night we have a work session. Everybody's welcome to come to a work session. It's not that big a room, but you're all welcome anyway. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. and our business session will be November 28th at 7 p.m. If I don't see you, or I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.